never lose at SummerSlam, something that WWE were emphasizing on about Hulk Hogan in years like '05 and '06 when he was feuding with Shawn Michaels to promote his show Hogan Knows Best, and Randy Orton when the show was in its second or third season the following year. If Hogan can keep his win streak at SummerSlam, The Undertaker should keep his streak at WrestleMania. There shouldn't be a point in time when you order WrestleMania, you sacrifice a great deal, and see The Undertaker lose his win streak at WrestleMania. The streak has become more important to The Undertaker than a World Championship ever was. And that's why WWE are building The Undertaker's career and legacy around. It's believed if The Undertaker loses at WrestleMania, not only does the streak die, but the entire career as a whole of The Undertaker dies. Wrestlers believe now that in order to rid the company of The Undertaker and to kill The Undertaker's legacy, you have to defeat him at WrestleMania. And that's the only way to kill The Undertaker, because each time he dies, which I believe he's up to about 15 or 16 times dying in his 20-year career. First time he ever died was in 1994 at the Royal Rumble, and because of that, he was unable to compete at WrestleMania 10. A WrestleMania that I believe he should have competed at because it was the 10th anniversary of WrestleMania, and it was the first time that WrestleMania had returned to its birthplace of New York City. 10 years after that, they returned for WrestleMania 20, and that was when the big, long year campaign for WrestleMania was launched. The streak of The Undertaker began back at WrestleMania 7. And every year that The Undertaker competed at WrestleMania thereafter, he defeated everybody from Jimmy Snuka to Randy Orton at WrestleMania. The Undertaker has faced all these legends, all these world champions. It's something that's never going to be taken away from The Undertaker. I said this when we were anticipating The Undertaker versus Triple H Part 2. I was just as nervous as all of you. I wrote about it in columns, I did video blogs for YouTube, I did shows for our radio forum, and I stated that I was just as nervous as each and every one of you about The Undertaker losing his win streak at WrestleMania. I didn't want to believe that DX was going to end The Undertaker's win streak at WrestleMania. It sounded stupid. I didn't want to believe it, and if anybody was to end the win streak of The Undertaker at WrestleMania, it should have been someone like his own brother Kane, who has spent over 13 years of his career feuding with The Undertaker and making a name for himself by defeating The Undertaker. And The Undertaker did express a desire to want to lose his streak to Kane at WrestleMania. That is what they should have done for WrestleMania 28 when they brought Kane back as this new resurrected Kane, which they're doing nothing with right now, unfortunately for him, and the legacy of Glenn Jacobs. That was a fantastic opportunity to resurrect a Kane against The Undertaker at WrestleMania. The Undertaker's streak coming to an end at the hands of Kane. Kane goes on to dominate the WWE years after The Undertaker is gone. They dropped the ball on a fantastic opportunity. They went with Triple H. The match is guaranteed to be match of the year. If it's not, I will shoot myself, because honestly, there's no other match that has happened in 2012 thus far, and we're just about 6 months into the year. That's at the halfway point. Nothing has topped it. We've seen some pure wrestling matches, like Jericho versus Punk in that series was incredible. Daniel Bryan and Punk gave us some incredible matches prior to WrestleMania and after WrestleMania, and one match even over the WWE Championship. They were incredible matches. This has been the year for pure wrestling matches. This has been one of the best years since 2006 for pure wrestling matches. But here's the thing. No match has defeated The Undertaker versus Triple H, and at the end of the year, that will be the match at this year's Slammies that takes home the Slammy for Match of the Year. It's incredible how much The Undertaker's given us at WrestleMania. So that's why I believe that The Undertaker doesn't need to appear at any other show other than WrestleMania. I mean, you look at all the contributions, all the innovative matches The Undertaker gave us, starting with the casket match, and the body bag match, and the buried alive match, and the Inferno matches, and the Hell in a Cell match that himself and Shawn Michaels competed in for the first time in October of 1997. The Undertaker is a wrestling god, a term that was first implemented by JBL when he became known as the self-proclaimed greatest wrestler of all time, winning the WWE Championship and holding it longer than any other SmackDown superstar of all time. Himself and The Undertaker have had remarkable matches over the WWE Championship. When JBL was the longest reigning SmackDown champion in over 10 years, it was incredible. So, you know, I honestly don't think, looking back at everything The Undertaker's done, not only for himself, but other wrestlers, he doesn't need to wrestle at any other show other than WrestleMania. Everything about this past year's WrestleMania and the Undertaker End of an Era match with Triple H was so good. Nothing will ever beat it, and if something does beat it, it's going to be something the Undertaker is involved with at WrestleMania. Do I think he'll be at WrestleMania 29 in New York? I hope so. I hope for the sake of all the wrestling fans out there who have followed The Undertaker's career that this is not it for The Undertaker. I think that if there was going to be a WrestleMania where the streak should have died, it should have been in a match against Kane, and if not in a match against Kane, it should have been at WrestleMania 27. The Undertaker came back to get vengeance. He rightfully got what was his. And I love the way that the WWE treated their legends this year at WrestleMania. Everything from The Undertaker winning the End of an Era match to the exchange of respect between three of the biggest icons in the industry. And then The Rock going on to solidify himself as one of the only wrestlers in WrestleMania history to defeat 3 decades of the top icons in the industry from Stone Cold to Hulk Hogan. Adding John Cena to his list of people that he's defeated on his way to the top. The Rock will be in G.I. Joe. He plays Roadblock. I believe the date for the release of that film theatrically is June 27th. When that is all finished, The Rock will be back. I put WrestleMania over as a show that I believe deserves to be where it is, and I think it's because of the treatment of the legends, definitely. If the show didn't have the legends being treated as good as they were this year, the show probably would have sucked. It was the perfect opportunity to treat your legends with a great deal of respect, and I think if WrestleMania 28 is remembered for anything, it's going to be how WWE treated their legends, because no other WrestleMania saw legends treated the way they were this past year at WrestleMania 28. Everything from Jim Ross getting the opportunity to call a number of WrestleMania matches. He wasn't there for the entire show, but he was there to call remarkable matches. I believe he called The Undertaker versus Triple H End of an Era match, and he called an additional match along with that one. He probably should have stuck around to call Cena versus Rock. They had The Undertaker win the End of an Era match, and they ended it all with The Rock solidifying himself as one of the greatest of all time. You'll never hear me say anything bad about WrestleMania 28, because really there wasn't anything bad about WrestleMania 28. The absence of the Money in the Bank ladder match was probably the only downer for the show this year, because the only reason they took it off was because the MITB pay-per-view makes up for the match not being at WrestleMania anymore, so it kind of defeats the purpose of having one at having the Money in the Bank ladder match pay-per-view if you're going to have one at WrestleMania. Honestly, this year's WrestleMania was great. It was because of the Undertaker versus Triple H match. I don't think there's going to be a third match. I think this is it. It would defeat the tagline of the End of an Era match if they did do it a third time. They've already given us some remarkable matches, and there's nothing left to be said about the Undertaker versus Triple H, honestly. I mean, the Undertaker and Triple H, their feud was taken to a whole other level this year inside Hell in a Cell. Part 2 was incredible, and with that victory, the Undertaker now goes 3 for 3 against Triple H at WrestleMania. The first match at WrestleMania 17, you really shouldn't probably include this one with the Undertaker versus Triple H feud, the End of an Era thing, because they rarely ever reference that match, and I was surprised they didn't reference the WrestleMania 17 encounter, because maybe WWE believed that it had nothing to do with, the end of an era, because when they had the first match, it was kind of right in the middle of the Attitude Era, and the thing with WCW was still on the go, and they were kind of trying to close the door on that. But, we're going to have to wait and see what happens with The Undertaker's career at WrestleMania. I think we will see him again, but anything outside of WrestleMania, I just have my doubts about it, because there's no really other reason for The Undertaker to be there other than to defend his streak. He's not going to win the championship for 10 or 11 times, because he doesn't need to be known as a 10 or 11 time champion. He's won virtually every honor in the industry, from winning Royal Rumble matches to winning Slammy Awards to winning major championships. The only championship that really eluded The Undertaker in his career was the Intercontinental U.S. Championships. Other than that, The Undertaker's done everything from win Royal Rumble matches to tag team championships to hardcore titles to multi-time world championships to a multi-time record as the WWE champion. He solidified himself as one of the greatest of all time, and I honestly believe with the legacy The Undertaker's going to leave us with, when it's all over for The Undertaker, regardless if it's this year or the year after, and he goes in the Hall of Fame a year after he announces his retirement, with an induction that will come at the hands of Paul Bearer, I believe, and rightfully so. His legacy is just absolutely remarkable, and he's definitely, arguably, one of the greatest of all time. I honestly believe that he is on the list of the top 5 wrestlers of all time. You definitely have to put The Undertaker in the number 2 or number 3 spot, with Hulk Hogan probably occupying the number 1 spot for everything he did for Vince McMahon in the 80s, a decade that was dominated by people like Hogan, Flair, and the Iron Sheik. Um, The Undertaker definitely does deserve a place on the top of the best 5 wrestlers of all time, honestly. And arguably he is. I mean, his matches with Shawn Michaels, Triple H, incredible. And if we never see him again, he will go down in history for being known as one of the greatest of all time, and rightfully so. I mean, is there anybody who has outperformed The Undertaker in big match situations? It's always been said that Shawn Michaels has never been outperformed in big match situations, and probably the only wrestler who has ever outperformed Shawn Michaels could possibly be The Undertaker. I ask you this on YouTube, Twitter, and Facebook. Has there ever been a time in The Undertaker's career when he's really been outperformed? Yes, there have been times when he's been defeated. He's been defeated by everyone from Mick Foley right through to Vader. But he's never been outperformed. The loss record of The Undertaker is something that is absolutely unparalleled to anything in the industry. The amount of times he's won is absolutely incredible. Very rarely would you see The Undertaker lose, especially in the 90s when he was marketed as a champion. He's virtually beaten everybody. He has a legacy that could, compete